Hello and welcome to this Blender for Beginners episode where we will learn how to use some of Blender's basic modeling tools and features to create a very basic looking low poly pistol. Okay, so first things first, for those of you that have never done 3D modeling before, this is our modeling workspace here, and we can see at the minute I've got a cube primitive in. A cube primitive is just an unedited shape of a cube. I can add other primitives in to my scene by going to the Create tab over here. And you can see that there's this list of cubes, circles, UV spheres, for example. I could add in a sphere there, and cylinders, all sorts of different shapes really. Okay, but I don't really want those. For this model, what I'm going to use is I'm going to use my cube that I've already had here. So I'm going to select these models that I don't want, go to Tools and delete them. Now, let's just get used to the Blender workspace. Okay, to zoom in and out on our object, I'm using my middle mouse button. That's how I've got mine configured to. To pan around in the scene, I'm holding down my middle mouse button, and that allows me to move around my object there. Okay, and to move from left to right, away from my object, I'm holding down Shift on my keyboard, and once again, holding in the middle mouse button. Okay, let's recenter my cube there. Okay, so at the moment I've got a cube, and what we're going to do in Blender is we're going to distort the shape of this cube so that it looks like the rough silhouette of a pistol, and that's going to be the aim of what we do today. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use a picture of a pistol and essentially trace out the shape of the picture using that. But let's go through some basic modeling fundamentals. This object here, this primitive I've got, if I right click it I can select it and you see it appears with a yellow highlight around it. If I want to edit this primitive and change how it looks, so the shape and stuff, I need to go down to where it says object mode down the bottom here, click that and select edit mode. Now I'm in editing mode, I can start to edit my shape. Now if we zoom in, we'll see that it's all yellow at the moment, it's all kind of selected orange, and we can see these orange dots at the end of every line. There's three different things that we can edit within GameMaker, and those three things are controlled down here. We've got three little pictures of a cube with three little orange icons on. We've got the Vertex select mode, which I can right click any corner or the end of any line to select that, and then I can use these arrow keys here, and by left clicking and holding down I can distort the shape of this cube using those arrow keys. And this corner part, the end of any line or where two lines meet, is what we call a vertex, okay, or a vertices. Okay, so that's the first way. I can also select this whole edge here, this line between these two vertexes. Remember, the vertex are the corners where two lines meet, two or more, by selecting the edge select tool down the bottom here. So this is the middle icon down here that I've now clicked, and now I can right click any edge and you see that highlights white, and once again I can do the same. So I can use the arrows to change the shape of the object by kind of dragging around where that edge is. And I'm just going to press Ctrl Z on my keyboard to go back. And lastly, as well as the vertex, the corners, the edge, the line, we can also select an entire side or face. Okay, and we do that by using the face select tool. Now, this is what we call a polygon. A polygon is where three or more edges or lines meet and they create a face. So essentially a side, but not really a whole side. Okay, that's something different. A polygon is where three or more edges meet to make one kind of surface area, and once again I can select that, and using the arrows and left clicking on the arrows, you see I can change the shape of my object there. That's what we call transforming. When we select something and move it about using the arrows, we are transforming it. As well as transforming something, I can also change the scale of it, and I can do that by coming down to the bottom. You see these three little coloured lines here that we can see here are also down here. The arrow tool is for transforming that we've just done. We've got this curve here which is to rotate something. So if I click on the red line I can rotate the angle of that surface, and we can also scale it, which is this line with the square at the end. And if we have a look here, I can scale it down and that changes the size and scale of it. Okay, so we can transform, rotate or scale. We can select a vertex, which is a corner. We can select an edge, or we can select an entire face. Okay, so those are Blender's basic kind of selection and modeling tools. The last thing we need to know how to do, which some might argue is the most important, is to know how to extrude. Now, Extruding is a tricky concept at first, and extruding lies at the heart of extrusion modelling. So extruding is where we take a face, for example this face here, and we're going to create a new face that kind of comes up out of that face. And we do that by selecting any face and then pressing E on your keyboard, moving your mouse and then left clicking. And we see, whereas before we had a cube with 6 sides, now I've extruded up from that top face and it's created all these new faces up out the top. And if I select this side one and press E again, it will extrude another set of faces out of this face that way. Okay, and I'll do it again, and we can do that from any face in any direction. We can extrude, and from any size of face. So if I scale down that face there and I extrude it now, you see it's in the same scale as that one. And it's through this process of extrusion that we can start to create different shaped models. Okay, so I'm going to take this back a few steps, and that's the fundamentals and the bare fundamentals of 3D extrusion modelling. There's obviously a lot more to it, especially when we begin to look at stuff like materials, texturing, loop cut and slide tool, how we subdivide faces, beveling faces, and all those kind of things. But for today, what we're going to look at is the basics of 3D modelling. So let's get started without any further ado. I'm going to go back to my object mode. I'm just going to delete this cube, and I'm going to create a new cube so it's perfectly in proportion right there in the centre. First thing we need to do is we need to find a picture that we can use for our pistol. So I've been on Google. Google is our friend, and I've just googled pistol, and under pistol images I found this nice looking Wikipedia picture here. I've right clicked and I've saved the image, so I went save image as, and I've saved that to my local computer hard drive. Now what I need to do is I need to use this picture as a bit of a tool with which to trace out the shape of my model. So what I'm going to do is I need to go up to here where there's a little plus button, click that and it'll open up my side menu. Scroll down in your side menu until you see background images down here at the bottom. Tick that and then click add image. Scroll down and you'll see you've got a little drop down window here that says axes all view, image movie clip, and then this little open button here is to locate the image you want to use. So we're going to click open image. Navigate through your hard drive to where you've saved your image. I know I've saved mine over here as gun side on. Click open image. And it hasn't appeared, and that's fine, we don't need it to appear yet. What we need to do now is just double check that we've got the axes set to all views, the opacity to 0.5, the back button is selected blue, and that means it will be behind what we're modelling, the picture. And then if we go down here to the bottom left hand corner, we've got the view button. Give that a click and then go to toggle quad view, and this will take you out of your single view of the scene to your quad modelling view. Now hovering my mouse over the end of the tab, I'm going to close that over, and if we zoom in now we can see that we've got the pistol of the picture on all of the modelling views here. So now we can use this to start to trace out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move my cube down to the bottom of the pistol grip. And what we can start to do now is, using this top view here, I can hover my mouse and I can still pan around in this view to kind of get the best view. Let's go into edit mode and let's start working. I'm going to use the edge select tool first of all to drag over the edge to get them roughly in the right location. Over here, I'm going to use the face select tool and I'm going to start extruding up, and I do that by right clicking to select the face and press E to extrude up. And I'm going to extrude up and use the green arrow here and drag that across so it's roughly in the right location there, and move that down a little bit, and I'm trying to get this roughly lined up with the bottom of the barrel there. Then I'm going to extrude up to this line here, and I'm going to extrude up to the gun barrel there and extrude up once more, and you'll see that I've tried to, over here, get them roughly lined up so that when I've extruded up the 3 times, each time I've extruded it's roughly been in line with there. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we are modelling a gun, it's not an exact replica. I'm now going to scroll around to this front face on my handle here, and I'm going to select these 3 faces here, and I'm going to do that by right clicking the first one, then holding down shift on my keyboard and right clicking the next 2, so all 3 are selected at the same time. Now I'm going to extrude out and I'm going to once again try and get it roughly in line with where the features of the gun are. There we go, perfect. Okay, now it's looking good. Let's go to the back here. Okay, and let's do the same at the back. So I'm just going to drag these over here, and I could really do with dragging this bottom one. There we go, that's a bit better. And I'm even going to extrude that out a little bit, and we'll kind of use the edge select tool there. And once again I'm using the arrows. When you're clicking on the arrows, whatever you do, don't click in the middle here, click on the end of the arrows. Okay, try and get it so that you're using it as fine-tuned as you can possibly use it. So don't click on near to here, because you can accidentally select some of the other axes and your model goes all over the shop. Then it's very disorienting. And I'm going to move down to this window to select these two arrows there. There we go. So what we're doing now is we're just going to go through and we're just going to do a little bit of fine tuning, and it doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. What we're really doing at this point is just, you know, playing with the edges and trying to line them up a bit more successfully with our model we've got so far. Our very, very basic model you can see here is a very basic model of a pistol. So now we can see we're just going through and we're just gradually using the line tool to just change the work we've already done, and we're just getting it so that it looks more in line with what we want. So what I'm going to do here, once again, I'm going to use the shift key and right click to multiple select lots of different faces at once. I'm just going to drag these up so they're roughly the right scale. So just go through and have a little bit of a play with your model and try and get it roughly in the right kind of look. Off a little bit. So now we can see we've got kind of the silhouette of my model. The basic shape of it is looking about the basic shape of a gun. What we need to do now, let's add in the trigger guard. Okay, and the way we're going to do this is we're going to use the loop cut and slide tool. So go into your tools, make sure you're in edit mode down the bottom here, go into tools, scroll down the tools tab on the left hand side until you come to loop cut and slide. Now hover your mouse over this segment here, and you'll see that when you hover your mouse over a polygon, a face, it comes up with this purple shape of a box. Okay, we want our box to be vertical going down the faces rather than horizontal. What this tool will allow us to do is wherever we select, it's going to slice all around the faces here and add in a new set of lines exactly where we kind of leave this. So we're going to use this to kind of create a bit of a cut down here where we're going to extrude out our trigger guard. So hover your mouse over the first section there, left click, and then move it along to where you want the trigger guard to start, and left click again. Now when I go back down here, I can select the face select mode again, and we'll see I can now select this face here, and I'm going to extrude down so it's roughly in the right area, and perfect. I'm going to extrude down. Oh, take that up a little bit, move it over, extrude down again, over a bit more, and once again, let's do this again. So go loop cut and slide, and this time we're going to do it over on the trigger over here. Click, and I'm going to loop cut and slide again, and click again. Now use your edge select tool over here. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a new face in between these 2 points here. So with your edge select tool, click the bottom edge of the trigger guard that's closest to this side over here, and then hold down shift and select this face over here and press F for face, and what we've done there is we've created a new face. Likewise again, select the next kind of sliced up face there, and then select the corresponding face over here by shift right clicking and press F for face again. Then select using your right edge select again, so right click, set that edge, hold down shift, right click and right click to select all 4 edges over here and press F, and on the other side do exactly the same again, select all of those 4 faces and F for face. Now that's looking good, but we've got a bit of a complicated problem. What we need to do is we kind of need to flip these faces around so that when we render our image it kind of picks them up, because at the minute they're actually going to be invisible, and that's because Blender's only rendering out one side of every face to save on processing power. What we need to do is we need to select this side face here. You can see that because it's a darker grey, this face here, it means that Blender's not going to see that when I render it out. It's only rendering the other side face. So right click that, and then what we need to do is go over to let's have a look, shading and UVs tab over here, and under the normal section we need to click flip direction, and you can see it's now the same grey as the other sides, the other polygons and faces around it. Likewise on this bottom one, you can see once again that's really dark grey. Give that a click and go flip direction. That one's okay, that looks about the right shade, as does that one. Perfect. There we go. So now we've got our trigger guard. Now let's start to add a few more fine details around the rest of the gun. So let's add in our sight at the front here. And how we're going to do that is we are going to select this face here. And we're going to use the knife tool for this one. So click knife. And the knife tool, we can left click from any edge to any edge, press return, and it slices the face there and creates another new face there. So use the knife tool, hover your mouse over an edge and you see the edge will go green. Left click to select that's where you want to cut it. Hover your mouse over another edge until that goes green and left click it, and then press enter to say you're done, and it will slice it there. So let's kind of go along here and have a look. Make sure it's in the right place. Now I've sliced that, but it's actually not really the right kind of place. This one might be better. And what we'll do here is we'll see if we can subdivide. So with that selected, click subdivide and subdivide again. Oh, actually we won't subdivide. There's too many polygons for a little thing like that. Let's use the knife tool again. And let's slice out where we want our side to be. And there we go. Now let's go for the top view here. So go down to view at the bottom and select top. And then zoom in, and we can see what I've done there is a bit messy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the Vertex select tool down here at the bottom. Remember the Vertex select option, and I'm going to right click this vertex, and I'm just going to try and straighten it out by just using the green arrow here to straighten it out. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I don't want this to be really messy. Ooh. This is going to be a little bit tricky to sort out, but I'm going to go through one at a time and sort these vertexes out so that they're kind of a bit more straight. And we can see when I'm right clicking, I'm just clicking on the arrows to move them so that these lines are straight. There we go, that's better. Now that I've straightened those out, ish actually, because that one's not perfect still. There we go. I'm going to right click using the face select tool once again, so right click that face, and this is going to be my kind of my trigger, not trigger guard, what am I saying? This is my sight, my front sight. So I'm going to press E on the keyboard for extrude. I'm going to extrude up, and then I'm going to just use the edge select tool and transform that so that it fits with it a little bit more. It's a bit tall, isn't it? So I'm going to use the face select tool, and there we go. I'm also going to make it a little bit thinner. I'm going to use the edge select tool. I'm going to push it in at the side there, and likewise. There we go. It's still a bit wonky and skew-if, isn't it? It's not perfect, but we're getting there. And hold down Shift, my middle mouse button as well. I'm going to go back to the end here, and I'm going to do exactly the same process down here, okay, to add in the rear sight. So I'll use my knife tool, and once again this is going to be pretty rough work, but it's not meant to be perfect. Well, it is. In fact, this face here, this back one, let's see if we can subdivide it. No, we don't want to do that. So once again, really going to town with the knife tool over here. Gives us that precision kind of cutting to make the polygons, the faces, sorry, that we want. Let's go back to the top view. Hold down Shift and my middle mouse button to position, and then the middle mouse wheel to get over it. And then once again I've got to go through that horrible process now of trying to get these into some kind of order, so that they actually work and they actually look about right. So just trying to focus on getting the horizontal bit straight first. Now I'm not going to spend loads of time getting this absolutely perfect, because it's more about what you do with this than me. So I'm just going to get these loosely in the right place. And there we go. So I've kind of got them roughly. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to use the face select tool once again to select these two faces. So hold down Shift and right click to select more than one. Press E on the keyboard to extrude up. And there we go. And I've got two gun sights. They're not perfectly positioned, are they? And go back a step and just move those over a little bit. There we go. And once again, I'm just going to tidy up the visual look of them a little bit by using the Edge Select tool to kind of add a little bit of a model to them. There we go. And then we've got one last bit, which is the hammer on the back of the gun over here. So once again, we won't subdivide. We'll just use the knife tool to slice this into three. This face at the back, and that middle segment will become the hammer. So and I'm just scaling that down as I go there. So that's not a perfect model by any stretch of the imaginations, but there we go. And so we've got a rough kind of gun outline now, so it's looking okay. Let's have a look at the next kind of bit. So now, how do we start to add a bit more detail to our model? Well, we need to have a look at the gun itself. So let's bring up this gun drawing I've got here. And we can see that there's a few design details. We've still got to add the trigger itself in. We can see the barrel of the gun over here. Okay, needs to be extruded out a little, and this needs to be recessed in. And we can start to go through and do that now. So let's go in. So first of all, let's get the barrel so that this bit here goes in. So what I'm going to do is, I'm only going to focus on doing the model from one side, and I'll show you why in a little while. We're going to use something called the mirror technique to kind of copy over what we do on one side to another, but we'll come to that later. Let's start to, I'm going to multiple select everything that I think the barrel is over here. Okay, and yeah, that seems to be about right there. Perfect. And let's just extrude that out ever so slightly. Just ever so slightly extrude that out. Not loads at all. So I've extruded that by pressing the E button on the keyboard to extrude that out. It's kind of brought the barrel out a little bit, and then we need to do exactly the same here on the front. just trying to get this detail where the barrel itself kind of comes out from the I don't know if you call it the barrel, I'm not much of a gun person, but whatever that is. Now I'm going to go in, I'm going to use my edge select tool to kind of push in this a little bit here, and then at the top we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to use the face select tool, and by holding down shift we're going to go down and we're going to select all of these all of the top edge of our gun, and we're going to push this in a little bit as well. And we're just going to push in the red arrow, just so it kind of goes in a little bit at the top there. And that's looking good, that's looking okay. And we'll just do kind of the same over here. Kind of we'll subdivide. Finally get to subdivide. We'll select all of what's going to be the gun grip, we'll subdivide it, and then we use the edge select tool to push in on the red axis, the gun handle on that side, and likewise use the shift again, and make sure we select all of these down here, and use the red arrow to push it in on this side as well. And there we go, it's looking a little bit more like there's actually something going on with this gun now. It's getting there. It's not quite Tekken, I know, but oh, just did something very, very stupid there. I pressed Control and Z, which we didn't want to do. Silly, silly me. And we see we've got a little bit of a problem over here. And hopefully you won't be having this problem, but I need to push this vertex in a little bit and pull this one out a little bit to soften that there. There we go. Okay, so that's looking okay so far. If we go back to our object mode, we can have a look. And in fact, I'm going to go and I'm going to toggle quad view off. Let's have a proper look at our gun. Okay, so now if we have a look, we can see that our gun looks good from one side, but if we go into the other, it's still a little bit plain. Okay, and that's because we've just done a little bit of fine detail editing on one side. Okay, so what we now need to do is just copy that over to the other side, and there's a really quick and easy way to do this in Blender. That is, if you go and click the spanner icon over here on the right, it will come up with add modifiers. We can add a mirror modifier to our model, and it will mirror what we've done on one side or one axis on another. So if we click the mirror modifier, and then we've got the option to mirror on different axes, so we can mirror on the y-axis, on the z-axis, and you'll see it goes underneath. The y-axis is to the side, or the one we want is the x-axis. Okay, so if we have a look then, what it will do is it will copy from one side to another, and that's what we want for this model. So what we do need to do though is, if we go into edit mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this handle in a little bit. There we go, so it's a bit more pronounced around there. Excellent, there we go. So perfect. And now if we click apply, go out of edit mode and click apply, and now what we've got is we've got a gun and it's modelled it on both sides. One more thing we need to do is we need to now make sure that we remove any kind of duplicates we've got. So go back into your edit mode and hit double A to select all and go remove doubles, and you'll see it remove any stray points where you've got double points, and go back into edit mode. So you can now see we've got our basic pistol model, and it's looking quite good. It's very low poly, it's only 312 faces or polygons big at the moment. It's a little bit wide. One tip we can do is to scale it down on the x-axis, which is the width or the depth of the subject. To do that, make sure you're in object mode, press S for scale and press X to scale on the x-axis, and you'll see this red line comes up, and that means it's only going to scale it on that axis. Move your mouse, make it a bit thinner. There you go, and that's much more kind of pistol dimension-y. Fantastic stuff. Okay, so there's still lots more work we could do to it, but already it's looking a little bit better, isn't it? Looking much more like a pistol, and we've got something now we can work with. Thanks for tuning in. I hope to see your models soon. Please feel free to comment below and send me links to your work.